Can't hear nothing. Hello, sorry. I don't think we can hear you. Yep, there we go.
Oh, my back. Dang, I was just a talking and a talking. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Lafayette. All right, let's do this all over again. Welcome, everybody. I am Misha Green. I am so excited to be with you all today. Thanks for tuning in to another week of Let's Talk on Win TV. I am so excited to be with you on this fantastic Friday. And I'm filling in for our publisher, Denise Rolark Barnes, who is taking some much needed time off, but she'll be back next week. So, in the meantime, in between time, we're going to get this party started, and we're sending her love and safe travels, and hope she's tuning in as well. Now, you all know that all month long we have been celebrating Earth Day, or Earth Month, I should say. But on Monday, Earth Day is the official holiday, and we wanted to make this broadcast our special Earth Day broadcast. So this week's broadcast is brought to you by our sponsor, the Environmental Defense Fund. And joining us today is Dion Delegati, Associate Vice President of Community Engagement at the Environmental Defense Fund. And we are so thankful for Dion being with us today and for the Environmental Defense Fund making this happen. And she'll be speaking to our environmental and climate reporter, Kayla Benjamin. And Kayla has had such an amazing pulse on all things environment, all things climate, all things Earth Month. And in fact, this week we had our special Earth Month edition, which we'll talk a little bit more later. So, and then after Kayla and Dion chat, we have our WI Bridge publisher, who you guys might have seen for a quick second because he tried to hop in and let us know that no one could hear me. That's Lafayette Barnes IV, who will share information about the upcoming Bridge Earth Day Salon, which we are also very excited about at Hill Prince on April 25th. And Lafayette will host Michelle Roberts, National Coordinator for the Environmental Justice Alliance, Alexis Dickerson, Senior Director of Community Conservation for the Potomac Conservancy, and wrap up our Earth Day special broadcast with Richard Bird, owner of the Home Court DMV, a retail store offering high-end vintage and thrifted items. And they will also be the panelist at this coming Earth Day Salon at Hill Prince. Don't you guys love saying salon? So I hope you all had a chance to pick up a copy of the most recent Washington Informer newspaper, which is so good. It has a lot of amazing content and important content this week. You can also get a digital copy by visiting our website at www.washingtoninformer.com. And please share today's broadcast on your social media platforms and follow us on Facebook, IG, X. Y'all, I don't know why I did the Wakanda, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Nextdoor, LinkedIn, YouTube. Really, wherever you're looking, you can find us. So be sure to do so. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV. So before we even get this Earth Day party fully started and bring on Kayla, we will watch our weekly news broadcast with Curtis Knowles.
This is Curtis Knowles with Win TV News. Vehicle thefts have been surging nationwide, and D.C. and Maryland top the list in percentage increases, according to a new report from the National Insurance Crime Bureau. In 2023, more than 1 million vehicles were stolen across the country, and the district and Maryland each saw drastic rises in thefts when compared to the previous year, with theft percentages increasing of 64% and 63% respectively. Police have urged owners of vulnerable vehicles to get software upgrades whenever they're available, and to use anti-theft devices such as steering wheel locks. MedStar Health has partnered with Dispatch Health, a company that provides same-day at-home urgent care and other medical services, to allow patients recently discharged from a hospital stay to receive in-home follow-ups. The patient's hospital-based medical team coordinates with the dispatch health teams for necessary follow-ups, usually within 72 hours of a hospital or ER discharge, with the goal to avoid unnecessary readmission. Currently, the service is available for patients from MedStar Georgetown University Hospital and MedStar Washington Hospital Center throughout DC and parts of PG County, Maryland. MedStar has said it's been evaluating whether to expand the dispatch health partnership in the region, including Baltimore. The Zero Waste DC plan, which the DC Department of Public Works released earlier this year, has pushed its target date back by 8 years. To reach 80% waste diversion by 2040, the plan lays out 43 actions that are aimed at overarching goals, which include reducing how much waste we generate, increasing how much we reuse, and expanding access to recyclable and composting services. By next year, the plan calls for policies to phase out certain single-use plastics, specifically items that are commonly showing up in DC waterways or contaminating our recycling streams. It recommends a complete ban of some single-use plastics by 2030 and a ban on some single-use items and other materials by 2035.
Thank you so much, Curtis, for that important package. Really appreciate it. And I just want to shout out all of our viewers out there. Tell us where you're checking in from, where you're representing, what you're doing on this fantastic Friday. And thank you, Michael, for commenting. We see you out there. And of course, we love providing you all with the news that we all can use. Okay, so without further ado, it is time to bring on our climate and environment reporter, I should say, Kayla Benjamin. How are you doing today, Kayla?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to have our Earth Day show. Let's go.
Well, look, I've been calling it an Earth Day party. You know, you can tell I'm such a millennial because I'm still raising the roof. But that's okay. We'll pass that. But it's an Earth Day celebration. First of all, before we even get into all of the fiesta, we first need to talk about all of the amazingness that is in this week's Earth Day special edition. Thank you, Kayla, for your hard work. Environment all around us, really, I think, is such important information and is a really great addition, celebrating not only the really dedicated work folks are doing to remind us that everywhere we are, we need to care about the environment. So, and thank you for bringing that to us. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So even as you're showering me with some love, I also want to shower the whole Washington Informer team. A big part of what we did with this edition and this theme is I wanted to highlight all the different ways that climate and the environment are affecting us in different parts of our lives, not just like, oh, when I walk my dog, it's hotter out, but really more about all of the different ways that it affects business and sports and health and all of these different things that we might not associate with quote unquote the environment. So a huge shout out to the entire Washington Informer team. Almost every writer contributed to this edition. And we were able to write about almost every beat that the Informer covers in our weekly paper, which was really important to me.
It really was a truly collaborative effort, and I'm happy that you gave a shout out to the entire team and, of course, our production team that made it look so beautiful, and all of our photographers who brought just such wonderful artwork as a part of the storytelling. So thank you. Yes, environment all around us. It's in this week's Washington Informer. You don't want to miss it. So I guess with that said, Kayla, you told us about why you came up with the theme, but what are some of the, can you give us a couple examples, I guess, of some of the ways that the environment affects us in unexpected ways?
Yes, I think one of the pieces I was most excited about was by our Prince George's County reporter, Richard Elliott. And he wrote about how climate change is changing youth sports in particular. So the number of days that is unsafe to practice is increasing because we're having more hotter days in our region. And it's also making it a lot harder for sports that involve any horses. They're really sensitive to heat. This is not so much in our region, but sports that require snow are shrinking rapidly as the mountains just get less snow. And I think people really think about sports as almost the same way they think about celebrities. That's totally separate from what's happening in my life. That's just something I watch on TV. But actually, I really think climate change is going to play a big role in what sports look like in the future.
Absolutely. That was a really important piece because I think, unfortunately, the effects of the climate and environment really wasn't brought to folks' attention or didn't get as much coverage really until a lot of unfortunate events that Richard talked about. And so I think that also, there's change coming. And so again, we thank all of our dedicated climate and environment folks out there doing the work. And we thank all of our amazing folks like you and the rest of the Washington Informer staff who are willing to tell the stories. So thank you. Tell us a little bit about some of the organizations that we should know about doing all that good work that we're talking about.
Well, coming up soon, I'll be talking with someone from the Environmental Defense Fund.
Yes.
We're doing really amazing work. And in the edition itself, we also highlighted in stories entrepreneurs who are working to build businesses here in the district that will move us forward in the energy transition. And we talked about government agencies that are working to reduce our waste and, again, move us toward a climate resilient future where district residents are ready for the heat and flooding that we're going to see.
And don't forget churches. I thought that was so interesting too. The fact that, a lot of churches, which we know, again, has been affected. Kayla's done stories in the past, but they're also really making a point of ensuring that folks are out there and informed about how they can make a difference. All righty. So I guess with that, without further ado, I really want you all to get into the nitty gritty of some of the amazing work and again, have this environmental Earth Day party. I was going to call it an ED party, but that might not work. But without further ado, I think it's great to bring on Dion to the show and again, thank her for being here and sponsoring our environmental and Earth Day and sustainability special edition. Thank you so much.
Dion, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Hi, Kayla. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the important reporting you all are doing.
Thank you. I don't know if we've introduced you, but as the president of community engagement at the Environmental Defense Fund, tell us a little bit about your role. What does it mean to lead community engagement at a huge national green organization?
Well, thank you. And you gave me a big promotion. I'm actually associate vice president. But what it means is, we are leading the work in our organization to try and ensure that our organization, which is considered one of the big greens, is being thoughtful about being inclusive of community voices and the knowledge and the experience that the input that the lived experience brings, as we're celebrating Earth Day, which is just such a, exciting opportunity to take part in collective action to protect the planet and stabilize our community. I think foundational to all of that, we must also focus on safeguarding public health. And so that's a big part of what we do. We also do a lot of work both with frontline community organizations as well as civic leaders. So we are working with them directly in trying to help them make decisions and help inform them. You all were just talking about sports. We're working on a project with some communities. DC is one of them, and looking at some of the data health initiatives and data health markers from monitors, et cetera, and what that looks like and how it impacts their decision making. And one of the southern states that we're working, or southern communities we're working with, wanted to look at that as it relates to their football fields. Are the members of their community that participate in those sports safe when they're doing that? And so, that's just a little bit of an example. We try and build tools and resources and add capacity and value to our partners and integrate the community experience and value as we are proposing solutions for climate and environmental issues.
So you do this kind of work, working with communities on environment all year round. So can you share a little bit about what's the importance of Earth Day? Why is it helpful to have maybe this day or month of specific focus to organize around?
I think it's important because there are some of us who do focus on this all year round. But there are a number of people who maybe don't. So it's an opportunity to celebrate the collective action and the wins that have been made and the progress that has been made. But there is also more to do. So it's an opportunity, to come together in celebration and action and spotlight and empower people to more action and make them aware of, I think best practices, what we see in other communities that are working well, that maybe they can adopt. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's opportunities for partnership and just sharing the importance of community voices being engaged and letting their community leaders know what's important to them and what the pain points are. Is there pollution that's impacting the community and driving asthma and other outcomes? And so I think all of those things are important. So it's, like was said, it's an opportunity to celebrate, it's an opportunity to educate, and I think it's an opportunity to empower.
You talked a little bit in there about partnerships, collaborations, helping communities connect with one another to not reinvent the wheel, build on each other's work. Can you maybe share a couple examples on how that works or what that looks like, especially if there are any in the DMV area, but doesn't have to be?
Certainly. Well, we are, like I said, our work covers both direct community, frontline community engagement, as well as civic engagement, so that those community leaders, the mayors specifically, can be informed and make thoughtful investments and decisions that reduce the burden. And so we're working with DC, we're working with Baltimore. We have a strong partnership with the African American Mayors Association. And so we do a lot of work with them. Some of it in this project I'm talking about with DC and Baltimore and Baton Rouge and others is really looking at health data. Some of the communities are focused more on heat. Some of them are focused on ground level emissions. So it's particular to each community and their needs and interests, but we are working with Harvard and with some of the HBCUs that are local to those communities to drive data that can help inform decisions. We've also worked with a number of communities that are looking at trying to secure funding from the federal government. We have this once in a lifetime opportunity for such great amount of funding to help bring these solutions to bear, and especially in communities that need it most. And we do roundtables, but then we also do provide support, especially in Texas and Louisiana, we are working on trying to reduce the impacts of the petrochem industry, which, relates directly to this thing of Earth Day as it relates to plastics and the impact of plastics. And a lot of people don't realize that, we're really focused on reducing oil and gas in the power sector and transportation, but oil and gas is the main feedstock in plastics as well. So, you talked a little bit about what DC is proposing in the newscast, but upstream, the communities that live around those plants where plastics are actually created, they face just an outsized burden, both from a safety factor as well as emissions. EPA has recently done an amazing job in updating a number of rules that will make it more protective and make those processes more transparent. But we work to try and provide resources on a scientific and legal basis to those communities, creating tools to help them and co-creating solutions that are really keeping local priorities in the forefront of trying to make scalable solutions that can tackle the climate crisis in the long run.
That is such a good point. I do think so this year's global international official Earth Day theme is, planet versus plastics. And I do think people tend, especially if you don't live in one of these communities, think about what's the problem with plastic? Well, it's in the rivers, it's everywhere. And that's, on our side of it, but it's really every part of the process of making plastics, using plastics and the chemicals that end up in our bodies as we use these, various containers and eat out of them, and then the waste that ends up all over our environment. And I bet, just as a quick shout out for later in the episode, Michelle Roberts from the Environmental Justice Health Alliance will probably talk a lot about this as well. And if you want to learn more, you should come to the Washington Informer Bridge Salon next week. But I guess in thinking about plastics in particular and their ubiquitousness and how dangerous they are at every point of their use, that kind of leads me to question, how far can community engagement go? What is it, what are the biggest challenges in tackling these seemingly overwhelming systemic issues?
So there are a number of opportunities. There are a lot of requirements for community engagement in some of the funding processes that are related to the infrastructure bills and some of those investments. But we see really important grassroots actions making a real difference. I think we've seen it in DC related to some of the industrial facilities that you all have reported on. And we are seeing it, the Beyond Petrochemical campaign that Bloomberg is leading, and they fund some of our work in a number of communities fighting some of this massive expansion of these chemical facilities, these petrochemical facilities, because again, as we transition from oil and gas and electric and transportation, there is sort of this shift in the business model, and there is just significant increase in proposed facilities, and they're all very highly concentrated in these communities that already bear exponential burdens from such high concentrations. I'm sure you'll hear more about that from the environmental justice dialogue you're going to have in a little bit. But we have seen some of these communities, one of the partners we work with, Rise St. James, was very successful in winning a lawsuit against a permit that was issued in Louisiana for a proposed facility. And the judge did rule in their favor and determine that the permit that was issued would not have been protective. And we are seeing more and more opportunities. One of the updated rules from EPA is starting to allow and require more fence line monitoring, et cetera. Making sure your voices are heard, making sure your elected officials know what the priorities are, where the pain points are. And, you know, sometimes we see facilities that industry will court local elected officials with the promise of economic development and jobs. And you dig in, and a lot of times those jobs are not for the people who are local to the communities. They are brought in jobs. Some of them are only on the upfront construction side, and some of them are so much less than is worth it. And we should never be trading health and the environment for jobs and economic development. They shouldn't be mutually exclusive. And there are ways that we can do things more thoughtfully and more protective, but that takes all of us joining together.
I heard you mention just briefly in there the money from the infrastructure law, and I know there's also money for a lot of different environmental projects in the Inflation Reduction Act. Can you talk a little bit about what community engagement means in respect or like regarding the money from those big laws, and also what is EDF's role in terms of helping get money from the big names with lots of people on staff like EDF to smaller organizations that are really on the ground in communities that might not have the capacity to tackle the immensely terrible bureaucratic process of getting that money. So just, you know, that's a big question, but talk me through what does community engagement look like with all this money floating around?
Well, and to be clear, it's tough even for an organization like ours. It's just, you know, and there has to be accountability when there are funds given, and, you know, we understand that, but trying to reduce that administrative burden. Many of the projects, especially money that's coming through EPA, require frontline partners to be more in the driver's seat, and groups like mine can be a partner, but we're not the lead in some of these. So, you know, we are talking to some of our partners, our community partners, and you know, our local elected officials and the partners that they have identified that they're collaborating with to define how we can add support. Typically, like I said, that is in additional scientific and legal capacity. Sometimes it is working with some of the application processes, et cetera. Our environmental justice team at EDF, we actually have environmental justice and community engagement separate, but they work very directly together. We have an institute that falls under our environmental justice team that awards grants and does help with some of the proposals and applications, the technical assistance. And then they are also working with some of the TIC-TACs and things of that nature. We are also, my team has worked on some curriculum for educating community members just on the issues. And so there's just a number of different ways. Each community is different in what they're looking for and what they're funding. And then on the flip side of it, you have some of the monies that are more available actually to industry. Some of that money comes from DOE and others, but there are some community engagement criteria in there. There have been some criticisms on whether or not it's strong enough and whether, you know, it's timely enough, but we are trying to push and use our, you know, opportunities and engagement with those agencies that has been historical to put as strong of guardrails and push for a high bar and a high standard for what community engagement looks like. And it can't just be, okay, there's a seat at the table and we heard what you said and we're going to do what we want anyway. How do we meaningfully integrate the priorities of communities into these processes and design any of these technologies in a way that do not cause secondary harms?
Okay, thank you so much. This has been a really interesting conversation. And thanks again to the EDF for sponsoring this episode and our Earth Day edition, which everyone should pick up. It's inside the paper this week, and you should read the paper too. Thanks again, Dion, and have a great Friday and a great Earth Day weekend.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to hear some of the other segments.
Misha, I think I'll throw it back to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dion. Thank you, Kayla. That was
Looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, but I am really excited to hear from the folks that we're going to have up next, speaking with Lafayette, who is with the bridge. Misha, you want to tell us a little bit about what's happening up next?
Can you hear me?
Can now.
Okay, perfect. Perfection. Yes, I am super duper excited to have Lafayette on next. There is so much to talk about, but in particular, congratulations on yet another successful I guess year of the bridge and such wonderful things that you all have been doing. It's been a while since we've like super caught up, but a year later, another bridge salon is on the way.
Yes, very excited. Very excited.
Congrats. So first of all, before we get into the salon, for all those who might need just a refresher about WI Bridge, tell us what you've been up to.
So if you're not familiar with the Bridge is a pioneering media platform that inspires millennials in the DMV region. We're built on the 60-year legacy of the Washington Informer. We foster community through engaging content, storytelling, cultural exploration, and the celebration of creativity. We launched our creative salons last year, and this year it's evolved into a quarterly event. This is the first of 4 events that we'll be having this year, 1 per quarter. The events are meant to inspire and unite artists, entrepreneurs, activists, journalists, philanthropists, and community members. This year's Earth Day Salon is our salon theme is the people versus plastics. And so that's earthday.org's 2024 initiative. So we thought we would, fall in line with that. I don't know if you have any more questions, or I can just go straight into, what we're going to be talking about this year.
Well, yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, it's really important work that you're doing. Again, thank you for it. And yeah, tell us about this year's Earth Day Salon.
So the salon, as you say,
thank you for indulging me.
Certainly, of course. It's going to be quite the conversation, quite the event. We have some amazing panelists. We have Alexis Dickerson from the Potomac Conservancy. We have Michelle Roberts from the Environmental Justice Health Alliance, and Richard Byrd, owner of Home Court DC and DMV. The conversation will be moderated by a close friend and bridge, supporter, Christopher Bradshaw, who's the executive director of Dreaming Out Loud Incorporated. They're doing some amazing work in the DMV area. So if you haven't heard any of them speak, it's a great time to engage with them. Our discussion will be inspired and aimed at, inspiring actionable solutions and raising awareness about the urgent need to address plastic waste in the DMV area. I mean, each of the panelists have their own perspective and, are working in those spaces. So I look forward to hearing what everybody has to say. They'll be highlighting their efforts and exploring their practical steps of how they engage with individuals and communities to make meaningful impact in combating plastic pollution. Our event will be held next Thursday. I'm sorry, not this Thursday. That would have been yesterday. It'll be next Thursday, April 25th.
Right. It's the next Thursday. That was long gone yesterday.
Yeah. So it'll be on April 25th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Hill Prince, which is an awesome bar on H Street, Black owned by the famed chef Rock Harper. We'll have complimentary plant-based hors d'oeuvres prepared by an awesome chef, Shakisha Rashad, and her company Ethiopian Eats. The drinks will be sponsored by a Black-owned rum company, 10-to-1 Rum, who will be serving signature artisanal cocktails. And we'll have one of my favorite DJs, one of the best DJs in the world, DJ Underdog, who, if you don't know, now you know, he's been, crushing it He sold out the one of the art museums recently, and also does his Rock the Park event at Malcolm X Park in Northwest. So come check him out. He's also like environmentalist himself. And I believe vegan. I don't know, that some people, change if they're going to be vegan for life or not. But last I checked, he had that diet, so he can speak also to, our Earth Day, theme. Just so you know, RSVPs are required for this event. If we can get that up, actually, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see our, the link to our event page, tinyurl.com/bridge Earth Day. And there you can RSVP. The event is free. We recommend, or we would encourage you to donate $10 to the Washington Informer Charities, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering and uplifting communities across the DMV region. So in conclusion, just, make sure you come out. It'll be a great event, great networking. We've, have some great partners and great panelists. It'll be a nice, room of diverse individuals from all parts of life in DC. And, we invite you to join us. Make sure you RSVP. Check out our website online, wibridgedc.com, and follow us on social media at wibridgedc. And let's work together to make a difference and create a more sustainable future for the DMV region.
Absolutely. I am so excited about this event. And I guess without further ado, it's time to bring on the amazing people that folks will get to hear more from, not only in 2 seconds, but later this week.
Certainly. I look forward to it. All right. We have if I can get you to unmute your mic for me real quick. Thank you. So this is Michelle Roberts. If you're not aware, she's the national coordinator for the Environmental Justice Alliance. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about the work that the Environmental Justice Alliance does and how it promotes environmental justice?
Sure. Thank you. And thank you for inviting us. The Environmental Justice Health Alliance for Chemical Policy Reform, an entire long name, but we were named by our communities. The Environmental Justice Health Alliance for Chemical Policy Reform consists of a collaborative of what we call legacy fence line communities. We live fence line to many of our nation's most egregious industrial operations. What we call the extractive force, if you will. And it has been happening over time, permitted by law. And as we know, permitted even throughout the history of time as it relates to that of land use practices, planning, and the likes thereof in our migration. It is a horrific way of living, but this is the way in which our communities have been subjected to live. Now, the good news is that our communities actually work together and pushing up against the odd, using all forces necessary, and have been able to, in fact, move through and into this particular administration, the Biden administration, pushing President Joseph R. Biden to center environmental justice into that of the West Wing. So that's the good news. And thankfully for news outlets like The Informer, who have always been with our communities. This is why we ask for many of you to make those donations of $10 seriously, because it was news outlets like The Informer who were the pre-runners and forerunners to the news period of what environmental injustice and environmental racism was doing to our communities.
Certainly, thank you for the work you all are doing, and I appreciate everything you just said. Certainly, one part of your conversation I could resonate with, which is, well, all of it I could resonate with, but one particularly, missing President Obama, that was, that's something that, I hearken back to a great time in our world. And I think that, being born and raised through the Washington Informer, and coming from Southeast Washington, D.C., which is particularly marginalized in this area, I've seen, the difference between, what, I guess close attention or, care or education resources, can do for the space that you grow up in. I'm wondering, what ways does the Environmental Justice Alliance, what ways does environmental justice disproportionately impact marginalized communities? Like, what is your thought on that?
Oh, when we look at our schools, the lead in the water in our schools, and then yet we're at the high end of the spectrum, if you will, of learning disabilities and the likes thereof. However, when we walk out of our school door, it may be a high-risk facility that can explode, and we would have to shelter in place. And where are we going to shelter in place? In the school, in the playground that's next to the dump, that's espoused, that has, or the landfill. These are the places, unfortunately, that we sometimes call home, or the thousands of trucks that come through our community, or the thousands of cars that come through our community. Meanwhile, we have no access to the metro, to the bus, or anything else like that, but the highway comes straight through our community. This is unfortunately what we call environmental racism.
Yeah.
And now, as we are impacted by the fires and extreme heat and the extreme cold, even in particular times, we are equally, and then on top of that, the pandemic, while we're told to wash our hands and hydrate ourselves,
Mhm.
how can we help ourselves if we are inundated with all of these things against us?
Yeah, it's a tough situation, and something I hope that we can hear more from you about at our Earth Day Salon next Thursday. We look forward to your comments on the panel. If you don't mind, can you tell our audience how they can engage with your organization, and anything that like, can they follow you on Instagram or Facebook, or should they call in? Like, what do you guys have?
You can follow us at ejforall.org. And then we are also part of a larger collective called the Equitable and Just Climate Platform. We are also a strategic partner with a collective called Coming Clean, where we are looking to shift the chemicals management system into doing the right thing by taking on a more precautionary approach to how it is we onboard chemicals onto and utilize chemicals and safer processes in our systems, in providing the works that we need to be able to heat our homes, or be able to use transportation and the likes thereof. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate your comments today. And as I can repeat, I look forward to you participating in our panel discussion next week. I know it's going to be a very educational and enlightening conversation. You have a great day. We're going to bring on our next panelist.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. All right, next up, we have Alexis Dickerson. Hello, how are you today?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Certainly. So if the audience didn't hear before, Alexis Dickerson is the Senior Director of Community Conservation at Potomac Conservancy. Can you tell us a bit about Potomac Conservancy, your work there, and how you guys, work to protect the environment and promote conservation in the Potomac watershed?
Absolutely. Potomac Conservancy is actually celebrating our 30th year of leading the fight for clean water in our region. So happy birthday to us. Our focus is on bringing people together to take actions that make a difference for our local environment. So we do this through a variety of ways, including direct land protection work, policy work that focuses on things that affect clean water, and boots on the ground community-based work where we encourage folks to get their hands dirty or their feet wet in the fight for clean water. So our big focus is on restoring the Potomac River to a reliably swimmable or fishable place for people to experience and visit. One of the key ways that we do this is translating the science of clean water into understandable and actionable information for the public. So we do this by publishing a report card every few years. It helps people to understand and keep a pulse on what's happening to the river, where it's been, where it's going, and what the current status is right now. So one example of this is in the 1960s, Lyndon B. Johnson declared that the Potomac River was a national disgrace. So that's how dirty the river was. At that time, if you had fallen into the river, you might have been told to get a tetanus shot. So that's how unsafe and unhealthy the river was. My dad grew up in DC in Southeast in the 1960s. So that means a lot to me when I hear something like that. So we want to get more people involved in the fight for clean water so they can understand how clean water affects their everyday lives and understand what they can do about it.
Certainly, yeah. It's always been a joke that if you fall into the river, like you said, you need to get a tetanus shot, or you might grow an extra arm or something like that. So I'm glad you guys are doing that work. I've also seen on social media that there are some people have jumped the gun and they're just ready to jump in immediately. And I don't know if it's time yet. So I'll take your lead on that. I won't follow the folks on social media.
Oh no, that's actually a great lead-in. So with our report card, when we started recording how the river was doing, it was getting a D grade. So the river was really not a safe and healthy place to recreate and play and to eat food out of. But we've actually gotten all the way up to a B. So it's actually a really hopeful story. There are still some significant challenges that we're facing, but the river's doing a lot better because of the collective efforts of so many organizations like the ones that you're speaking to today, as well as other local advocacy organizations. So it is overall a positive trend and story, which is a great thing to be able to tell people. But we've come a long way from Lyndon B. Johnson shaming us all.
Certainly. Yeah. In my household, if I got a B, that was still a good thing. So, you guys are doing a great job over there. If you don't mind, can you tell us how can individuals and communities contribute to the conservation efforts that you guys are working with along the Potomac River?
Sure. We actually, a great way to follow us is we have an events page on our website, potomac.org/events. So we do local community cleanups on a regular basis. We have several that are going on this weekend, which are probably already full. So don't run to try to sign up for those, but we have more coming up in May and June that you can participate in. If you're in DC, we go to places like Kenilworth Park, Anacostia Park, Fort DuPont, and more. If you're in Prince George's County, we're in places like Fort Washington, at Fort Foote, Oxon Hill. We also do cleanups in Northern Virginia and Montgomery County. So no matter where you are, you can join and get involved with us. In the fall, we actually do seed collection work. One of the big challenges for this region is that there's so much development still happening that we're losing a lot of trees. And so that pressure means that there's a big initiative around reforestation, and that's really important for clean water. In the fall, you can join us to do some seed collection work. So you can join us just for a volunteer event, or if you are someone that sees yourself as a leader, you can join us as a volunteer and learn to lead some of these activities in your own community, which is great.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I might have to sign up for a couple of those things. It seems to affect my area, and I can't wait to swim in the Potomac River. That's like, sort of unimaginable, but I look forward to that day. So can you tell us your website, or if you guys have social media, what are some ways that people can follow you all and stay abreast of the missions and things that you guys have going on?
Sure. Potomac.org is the best way to find us. Just simple, type that in and you can get to our website. On social media, I believe we're Potomac Conservancy. So you can just at us at all the different social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram specifically. We are also a member-driven organization. So we are proud to have 30,000 members in support of our efforts, but we need more voices represented so that we can hear the concerns that are affecting all of the communities in DC. So you can also join us, become a member, and then start to get your voice included in all of our conversations and our efforts.
Amazing. And I know that next week on Thursday at our Bridge Creative Salon Earth Day discussion, we will have you there and people can probably talk to you then about how to get involved. And we look forward to your comments on our discussion about plastics versus people. I know, you would know better than me, but plastics in the water is never a good thing. Not for, swimmers or sea creatures. And so we look forward to seeing you answering questions and engaging with our audience to figure out, some solutions and how folks can get further involved. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We really love this conversation and we look forward to talking to you next week at the Earth Day Salon.
Thank you so much.
Certainly. All right. So that was Alexis. And next we have a friend of mine, Richard Byrd, from Home Court DMV in DC, one of the most stylish guys in the DMV. So, you can check out his store in Georgetown and also one in Silver Spring. And now that we have you, thanks for joining us. Can you share us, some of the missions of Home Court? Like, how do you engage in the community, related to sustainability and eco-friendly practices?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me. Good afternoon.
Certainly.
Yeah, you're a legend, Lafayette. So it's an honor to be on the show. But yeah, we started about 7 years ago, and I think one of the appeals of the store has always been we've always put community development and society at large, I guess, above the bottom line. So we started a while ago with this kind of thrift store type of energy. But we've always believed that you can be fashionable and sustainable at the same time. You can put your outfits together. You can be cool without supporting fast fashion and that kind of thing. So what our job is we believe we're able to operate within that kind of like retail space, the retail market, but also but able to do it in a socially responsible way and a sustainable way. So now that we've shifted, we have 2 stores now where we kind of we believe that we're able to have a sector of the market where one of our stores is fully thrifted in vintage items, and then the other store is all like designer items and sneakers, and they're both resale shops. So we believe having these 2 types of shops are an in-between between fast fashion and a completely sustainable lifestyle. I think one of our cornerstones that we believe in is baby steps. As being a part of the fashion industry, we understand that we contribute on a larger scale to damaging of some ecosystems, and our job is just to kind of see if we can scale that back a little bit.
Certainly. Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. I'm addicted. I mean, half my closet might be from you guys right now. And, not only do I save a little bit of money, but I also am able to, do a little bit of good for the environment, compared to my typical shopping habits. So, the concept of reduce, reuse, recycle, that's, I guess sort of the core of thrifting, right? And so, how do you sort of contribute to that, or how does your store contribute to reducing waste and promoting that concept on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I think one thing we had to understand early on, and obviously it's a business, we do our best to try to keep the lights on, but I think one thing we had to understand early on is that as we progress into more of a fashion forward society and social media society, I think everybody wants to do their best to look their best and feel their best. But what has come with that in the past 20 years is the rise of fast fashion. So I think, as a everyday consumer, you don't realize how much your fashion choices contribute to societal harm or environmental damage. As a couple conversations that were had earlier on the show mentioned, you know, with fast fashion comes poly fabrics. Poly fabrics tend to have a lot of plastics within them. So when you wash them or when they're created, the amount of water and microplastics that are leaking into our rivers and our lakes and our oceans is just extremely damaging to all the ecosystems that are attached to them. So when it comes to, what we're doing to combat that and how we use, reduce, reuse, recycle, we have an ecosystem of our own that allows you to contribute from, the bottom up. Now, what we don't do is accept fast fashion brands because we fully understand that, stores like ours tend to drive market demand in today's society. So the choices we make trickle down into the choices our customers make. So at the end of the day, we're completely opposed to fast fashion and the waste they contribute to society. And we tend to, try to use, vintage items that are 20 plus years old that were made well and that will last the test of time. Outside of that, we like to, we offer drinks to our customers in both locations. We use glass bottles as to not to contribute plastic waste, and we try to not use bags for our customers. We recommend people bring their own bags, but when we do, we use recycled paper bags. So just like I said, baby steps and try to go in the right direction and push that out to our customers and make it cool.
Certainly. Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. I appreciate that. So I don't want to hold you too long. I know it's still a business day. Everybody's got to get fresh for Friday. So can you share any upcoming events? I think you guys have some things coming up. So can you talk about maybe some of your upcoming events or initiatives? And if you have anything planning to honor Earth Day or promoting sustainability?
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, coincidentally, we have our Earth Day street market tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, 420. So basically, what that is something we've been working on for the past couple of years. We as a store that promotes, the use of vintage and upcycling garments and home goods and plants and all the things that create a full lifestyle. We do a monthly market that serves as an incubator for small businesses and brands in the area that allows our community to come together. We have a food vendor coming out. That event will run tomorrow, Saturday the 20th, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. at our Silver Spring location. It's in 906 Philadelphia Avenue. We'll have about 40 vendors that are also their own thrifters, vintage clothing sellers, sneaker resellers. Keep a reusable market in the sneaker industry where we all kind of came from. So we do that every month, last weekend of the month usually. It's just an effort to continue to push the idea of sustainability and market demand for things that aren't brand new and that aren't fast. So if you're free, come out and check us out.
Yeah, certainly. I'll definitely do my best to pull up. And also, people will be able to meet you next week at our creative salon, Earth Day Salon at Hill Prince on 8th Street. Starts from 6 and ends at 9 p.m. You guys will be coming on around 7. So we look forward to you engaging with the public there. If you haven't been to Home Court, I definitely recommend everybody check it out. And thank you so much, Rich, for joining us today.
Thank you.
We look forward to our conversation next week.
Have a good one. Thank you again.
All right. And for our last time, if we can get that flyer back up on the screen, I just want to, tell everybody that, the conversation next week will be on plastics and environmentalism. We have some great panelists, Alexis Dickerson, Michelle Roberts, and Richard Byrd. And it will be hosted by our moderator, Christopher Bradshaw from Dreaming Out Loud. The location is Hill Prince, which is a Black-owned beautiful space on 8th Street. I recommend everybody check it out. And even if you can't make it to our event, make sure you go by, grab a drink. We'll have, food provided by Ethiopian Eats with Shakesha Rashad. and music by my favorite DJ Underdog, and more. Oh, and drinks by 10 to 1 Rum, which is a Black-owned rum company. So, we look forward to the conversation. Make sure you RSVP. You can see at, going across the bottom of the screen, tinyurl.com/bridge Earth Day. RSVP is free. You get food, you get drinks, and great conversation and great networking. So we'll see you there. If you have any questions, feel free to visit wibridgedc.com for more information, or check us out on Instagram at wibridgedc. And Misha, back to you.
Thank you so much, Lafayette. Thank you to all of the amazing folks doing the good, important work in the community to raise awareness about environmental injustice, raise awareness about what we can do to combat challenges with the environment, and of course, how we can think about sustainability in all things, including the things that we wear. And so I'm so looking forward to the Creative Salon on April 25th, celebrating Earth Day, celebrating the work that the amazing people here are doing in the district surrounding sustainability. And I want to thank all of our guests today. Dion Delegati, thank you so much for coming from EDF. Thank you to Kayla for that wonderful segment. Lafayette, all of your amazing work at the Bridge just excites me, and I'm ready to party and celebrate Earth Day, celebrate sustainability at the Earth Day Salon this coming Thursday. With that said, you all, I hope you have a fantastic Friday. Thank you for tuning in. I see you all in the comments. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Patrick. Happy Friday to you as well. Thank you all. And you know what I always say, sharing is caring. This stream can live in the world as long as you go ahead and share it with your village. So make sure that all of your folks get the news that we all can use here on Washington Informer TV. Let's talk, as well as www.washingtoninformer.com, and everywhere on social media at Washington Informer News, or Wash Informer News, I should say. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We so appreciate you as always. Oh, yes. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's very, very important. Thank you, Inspire Media, for reminding us. Make sure you you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So Wash Informer News if you're not following us, and then Washington Informer TV for YouTube. All right, y'all, without further ado, it's a Friday. I know that you might be ready for your lunch. I know that you might be ready to start celebrating your weekend and tapping into some of the cool things that the district has to offer. Remember, you can look on WashingtonInformer.com as well as our this week's edition for our Things to Do section and our Washington Informer calendar. Again, make sure you get a WashingtonInformerEvents.com to check out the Bridge Earth Day Creative Salon. And again, just thank you to everybody for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Take care. Have a fantastic Friday.